Hi there, my friends. It's Miss M with a quick tip for you. As a preschool speech language pathologist, I have a range of students. I have students that are verbal communicators. I have students that are not yet verbal. They're very early communicators. I have students that are kind of in their own state or their own agenda and that stage of communication, which we're working on building just that joint attention. So I have a range, and I get a lot of families that do ask me, especially with those students that are not yet using words verbally, how to do that and what kind of tips I might give them to use at home. So I thought this would be something that could be helpful for speech pathologists, for teachers, and for parents, like most of my videos are. And so we're going to talk, there's quite a few what you might call like the rules of talking, or the rules of verbal communication, I should say. And so I'll go through those in a variety of different videos. And so today specifically, I'm going to talk about how to talk to a child who doesn't yet have their own words that they're producing. And so this obviously is going to, I'm going to combine a lot of the tips that I already give in lots of my videos, like following their lead, saying less and stressing when you're talking with your child and things like that. So you're going to hear some repeats in there. Just because these things work, But first and foremost, something that I always say is, okay, well, when you're talking, so you're the one, or me as a speech pathologist or whoever, right? You're giving all of this language input for your child. So even if they are using gestures or facial expressions or sign or pictures to express themselves, you still can give them multiple ways of language input, one of those being your words. And I say one of those because we're going to get to something very important as we move down my little list here. But the first one I want to go over is, remember, everything that you would talk about has a name. So make sure you use that name. We want to make vocabulary acquisition something that's meaningful and functional. So, if you are, like, a good example that I like to use is, we love teaching more, and it's a very functional thing, more. But we also want to make sure that we are, as the language guides, or the person giving that input, kind of in control of giving that input, we want to make sure that we are labeling the things so we can differentiate, because as that child is acquiring new vocabulary and retaining new vocabulary, it's only going to help them when they have that variety. So let's say, we're working on more a lot, they're getting it down, but it's snack time and you've got some goldfish and water, right? Well, when they're doing more, you want to make sure you're interpreting, or you're asking them, or you're talking about the goldfish specifically, or the water. So if they say more and you give them goldfish, make sure you acknowledge, oh, you like goldfish. Oh yeah, more goldfish. Same thing with water. Make sure that you're labeling everything, a fridge versus a cabinet, trash cans versus buckets. When you're playing, all those toys, they all have names. You've got your dolly, your dinosaur, your train, your car. So instead of just more toy, you're making sure that different vocabulary is in their brains. Now, we want to make sure that we're acknowledging, and I always say this, but you're acknowledging and interpreting all communication. So, I'm not going to require a child to say more car because we have a car and a bus. More is going to work just fine. But as the person giving that language input, I'm going to make sure that I'm helping them differentiate between the car and the bus. So, food for thought. As you go through these, remember, give yourselves grace, everybody. Make sure that you're not like sitting here like, oh, I don't do that, or yeah, I do that, but not enough, or anything. Give yourself grace. This is just friendly reminders. Use short, simple sentences. So if you remember, I did the 4 S's, and one of the S's in that strategy is say less and stress. So short, simple sentences, you want to make sure in those sentences everything is meaningful and functional. So I'm not going to say, shorten it up a lot. I'm not just going to say car. I'm going to say, look, car, go. Or the car is going is just fine because those morphemes are in there too. I know there's a lot of debate between, cargo, telegraphic language, and using all the morphemes and everything like that. But I always say, you just kind of read the student too. Sometimes you're like, cargo, yay, we did it, or they're using that. And so you might say, yeah, the car is going, to give them that extra, that language input, right? So you're acknowledging what they said, you're praising it, and you're just interpreting it and recasting in the correctly grammatical way. But I typically will just speak and use the grammar that adults will use. So the car is going, you're not saying the car is going so fast over the hill. That's a lot of language for my little one that I maybe want to try to imitate one of those words. So we just want to make that short. We want to make it easy and relatable. And then when you use single words, put them back into a sentence. So if, car, the car is going. So I said car, I highlighted that vocabulary word, or maybe the word is go, because that's really functional, right? It's a really functional core word. So go, the car, it goes. Or car go, there, that's probably a little bit more appropriate. So you always want to put it back. There's a fun improv game that I play. It's called the ABC game, where the improvisers in the game have to their next line has to start with the next letter of the alphabet, and something that you're not supposed to do in the game, but we always do, because we're like, especially there's a couple teachers in the improv group, and we're labelers, like we understand, like we know our vocabulary, and we're like, if my word's P, I'm like, plant it over there. But I always like highlight the word first. Here, totally appropriate. In the improv game, no. So you think plant, the plant is green, right? Okay. Do you see me doing a lot of this? All my hand movements? Use gestures. I was just talking with a really good friend of mine, another speech pathologist, Netta, who is a great early intervention and intervention speech pathologist and parent coach. And she talks a lot about the importance of using gestures. Now, when we say talk with your hands and use gestures, we mean when you say things like open. That's a very easy to interpret gesture for open, or close. Splash, do you want to splash the water, or let's splash? Yes and no. Use those gestures when you're saying yes and no, because what that does is it gives the child multiple ways to interpret you, to understand you, and it models multiple ways for them to use their language. So maybe, so when you say more, right? Very universal at this point, I feel like. Because maybe that's going to be easier to start with. The action might come before the words, and that's okay. It'll facilitate that. And so you're giving them the ability to use any means of communication. And that's an amazing thing, because then you are going to be able to interpret more of what they say and do. So use gestures. Again, all of those really easy to interpret function words. Splash, open, close. You could do stop or stop, however you do that. You could do, I keep wanting to say yes and no, but when you say put in, take out, hi, bye, all of those things that are so good. Together maybe might be one that you do. Yeah, so really good to use those gestures when you talk. And then another really good tip is tell and then show what you're doing. So if your little one, for an example, let's say it's snack time and your little one that's, not yet using spoken words, they are sitting there and you're getting their snack ready in front of them. So narrate what you're doing. I told my brother when my nephew was really young, I said, when you're driving, talk about what's happening, which, is a little bit harder in this sense to actually show what you're doing because you're driving, but you get the idea where you're narrating, you're the narrator. And you want to use all these other tips, right? Use short, simple sentences, use your gestures and everything. So when you are, let's say you're getting their snack ready and maybe you're chopping up the fruit. So maybe you say, I'm going to chop up some fruit. Look, I'm chopping the fruit. I'm gonna put grapes on the plate. Look, I'm putting the grapes on the plate, and things like that. I'm gonna, oh, let's pour water. Look, I'm pouring the water. So that way they see that gives your words more meaning. And that's the whole point, right, of communication, to add meaning and to add information, to add value. And so when you do that, it helps that receptive piece kind of be more solid, so that way the expressive piece can come. Use repetition. Say it over and over and over again. Look, I'm pouring the water. Pour, pour, pour the water. We're pouring the water. Okay? Lots of repetition. Help it sink into their brains, their little sponge brains that are growing so much. And so why not just repeat things and just facilitate that? And then, as I always say, use your expectant looks, right? Your pause. You want to give the child a chance to show that he understands. So, okay, we're going to pour the water. Look, I'm pouring the water. And get that engagement. Now that you made the connection, then you could say it again. Oh, we're pouring the water, But say less stress, give those pauses, that time to interpret, because as much as we want to be quick and jump to interpret for our little ones, I know I do this in speech a lot. I'm like, oh no, I want to give him a chance to interpret me. And so that's just another really important point. Just give that time. You've got time to foster this development, and it's all just so beautiful. It all works together. All right, so that's my tip for you today. But stay tuned for more on the rules of talking or spoken words. Yeah, looking forward to talking more with you. All right, friends, talk to you later. Bye.